United's penalty taking is 5 out of 5. This podcast timekeeping is not 5 out of 5. Hello and welcome to your slightly delayed review pod. My name is Jordan Warland. I'm not even sure if this is coming out on a Monday. Fortunately though, joining me is a man who does know if it's coming out on a Monday or not. The man who pushes the editing buttons. It's Julian Roberts. Hello mate.
Hello mate, how you doing? Monday evening, but it will be out on a Monday. I can confirm that. The Monday pod is out on a Monday. Just like
there's no such thing as a Monday pod.
Friday.
There's no such thing as a Monday pod or a Thursday pod. Very much a Friday pod. Is there a part of you that's like, nah, I'll just put it out on Tuesday?
Just for a laugh. Yeah, why
just for a laugh. Let's make this Chesterfield content really
you have
time sensitive.
Unless you listen to it between 5 p.m. and 7:45 p.m., half this pod will be out of date.
Should we touch on why there was sort of a delayed review pod? I mean, basically, we wanted to see who we got in the third round. We had high hopes. They may or may not have been dashed, depending on if you're more confident or more positive than I am, Julian. The Monklassico, Birmingham at home. Are you glad that we waited to do the reaction pod?
It's not a glamour tie, is it? On the face of it, I did just watch just before we started recording. I watched the first bit of Neil Harris's presser, and he gets just when they get to the point about the cup draw, he says, "I just want a home tie," so he'll be happy. I just started thinking. So as soon as the balls came out of the hat, because we're obviously right at the end, we were like in the last 4 or 5 ties, and you've still got, I think, Man United and Crystal Palace and Brighton were up there. So you started looking at the odds, thinking like home or away, any of those 3 Premier League sides, and there was definitely a Championship side still there. So aside from Birmingham, obviously, and you're thinking like not Birmingham, because it's kind of that worst middle ground, like Stockport was in the second round, where it's not a glamour tie. We will almost definitely lose, and it's a side that we've played really recently, so it's not even got a novelty factor like someone, for example, like a Bristol City might have, or a Leicester. Similar sized clubs. Even if you're playing them at home, it's not quite a Premier League tie, but there's a novelty to playing them. Birmingham's we were in the same league as them last year, so it's like.
Plus with Wrexham getting a Prem team at home, it means you don't even get the moneyed US team might be on TV angle.
Well, do you know what? Actually, I started thinking about it after, and they do put a lot of games on TV now, and I think there is a chance it could be on telly, but not like a glamour telly slot. Do you know what I mean? When it gets shunted to a Sunday, and there's like 8 games on at 2:00 on a Sunday, that slot. We might end up in that slot because there is this Tom Brady Birmingham factor. We are 2 divisions apart. I don't know. I'm clutching at straws here, George. I don't know what. I guess.
I remember playing a Midlands team on a Sunday, and they were in they're in the Championship now. They weren't at the time. Went rather well that time.
That
so
did go well.
Maybe we're onto a good thing here. Because I was thinking pre-record, is there any good angle for this? You've got away with words. What can you weave to make us feel positive?
Oh, well, that's a lot of pressure. I guess let's.
Well, I've got one.
Neil Harris will genuinely be delighted we're at home, no matter who we're playing. I think he's thinking of, if you think of the miles we've just done this week, obviously we've come out of it in good shape. 2 penalty shootouts, as you mentioned there. One that we wanted to win, 1 loss that we probably wanted to lose. So, if anything, like brilliant week. He won't have wanted any sort of away tie. As much as it's unglamorous, it could be worse. I still think like an Exeter away, a Port Vale away is, someone in the league above who probably would still beat us, and it's a terrible draw and has got 0 chance of being on TV, 0 chance of the Abbey will probably sell out or be close to.
Sell out of the Abbey is probably a nailed on one, and half the people in the home end will be Birmingham fans again.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Put it this way, I reckon it's quite a boring draw, but I think it could be worse.
Reckon they'll be selling any tickets for the Habin Roof? See if they can get any more Birmingham fans back up there. So I had one positive rematch of that massive fight.
Oh yeah.
Get it on. Put that on TV on.
Do you know what, George? I was physically in attendance for Birmingham at home last year, but I was so checked out mentally by that game that I'm not sure it really counted as me being there. So it's kind of going to feel like the first time I've ever seen us play Birmingham at home. So that's a positive.
I remember the home game and just being stood next to a family who were quite clearly Birmingham fans.
Yeah.
When you've
Peaky Blinders hats on and everything.
you have your sort of your rough sort of kind of area that you stand, and you roughly know most faces, but these were all completely new. And
Yeah.
just like the awkwardness when I can't remember how many times Birmingham scored, but Birmingham definitely scored. Like the awkwardness when that happened, and sort of these like group of four trying to keep
Yeah.
themselves to themselves.
Yeah.
Funny,
Yeah. He's sort
funny
of
old
like
afternoon.
under your jumper, like little sort of fist bump, but that's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think can I give you two little things from the watching the draw live that I clocked that one I liked, one I didn't like. The first one you've already mentioned, which is when Wrexham got drawn out of the hat before Forest came out of the hat, who's who they drew. They were doing the draw at Brackley. I'm sure a lot of people listening watched it, and all the room started booing like when Wrexham came out of the hat. There was
love
like
that.
you could hear like the boos, and they even commented on it like, "Oh, no one likes Wrexham in this room." Big fan of that.
Yeah,
And the
well done,
other
Brackley.
and the other thing, and normally like I quite like Ali McCoist and like I don't mind Peter Crouch and Joe Cole's coverage whenever I watch, which is not too regularly. They were obsessed by Villa Spurs being like the glamour, the big tie of the round. And I understand, it's two big Premier League teams. That's like as boring a tie as you can get, in my opinion. And then the other one, it was I think is Everton Sunderland. I think they're playing each other.
Yep.
Like that, they kept saying how big it was, so Premier League focused from them so blatantly. It's like, isn't the point of the FA Cup third round the exact opposite of what you're talking about here? That Macclesfield Palace is a good draw. Shrewsbury are away at Wolves. Yeah, like there's
Exeter go to Man City. Yeah.
Exeter go to Man City, which by the way we should actually make a note of. Just total aside here, but
Because it's not us going to Exeter.
no, but have you seen how much trouble Exeter are in financially at the moment? They're one of the two fan-owned clubs in the EFL, them and Wimbledon. They had a fire at their ground recently. I don't know if this came across your attention. They had a small fire somewhere at St James's Park, and they don't have a lot of money. They're basically they were in serious financial trouble, looking like even if they stayed up this year, they were in serious jeopardy of having to go and find outside investment, which obviously goes against a lot of what they are as a football league club. And there was an Exeter fan in the Not the Top 20 Telegram group that I'm in, which is worth signing up for people listening. And he was saying, this is a couple of weeks ago, he was like, we need a big draw in the FA Cup. It might be the only thing that keeps us alive. So I think from what I've heard of the story, it's genuinely like as good a tie as they could possibly have get and might keep the club alive. So that's just a little note for a good story. But anyway, we got a fucking boring tie, so who cares?
Imagine if they've got Cambridge at home and they're like,
Yeah,
exactly. That's not keeping us afloat.
Exactly, yeah.
Stockport then was a tricky one. We couldn't get to, none of us could get up to Stockport. The FA Cup decided to not let us stream it anywhere. Tom and I flew out to Frankfurt. No joy. How was a Saturday where a game was going on that you couldn't see? Like, how was that for you?
Bizarre is the answer. Like, really bizarre. And it was
then throw in a penalty shootout.
it was a lot of factors. I'll come on to the penalties in a second because I've got a good story. But there was a lot of factors to this, wasn't there? And I think we should probably also admit that it's another factor why we're recording on a Monday night, because none of us could watch the game on the Saturday. We were all too busy on Sunday, so it kind of all worked out that we'd come and record here. But the fact that none of us could watch it, normally there's always one or two of us at the game, and if not, almost always we'll be able to watch it somehow. Or you get full match highlights, so you can always find a way of covering the game. And
we've also reached out to get guests on as well.
Exactly. So
we tried a lot, guys, to get you a Monday morning pod.
We tried everything. I'm pretty sure in the network of between the five of us that we know at United, which is quite big, I knew one person who was at the game physically. So it was the sort of game that not a lot of people were at anyway, just because rubbish draw. I mean, a worse draw in my opinion than the one we've just got in the third round. Obviously you can get a better draw in the third round, so comparatively it feels worse, but it was literally the worst draw we could have got right. Stockport away, top of League One at the time, and it's a long trip up to Manchester. So to answer your question, the other thing that was weird was I didn't even have narrative, like group chats weren't going off. There wasn't any, it's like nothing was happening in a way, because there was also no alerts, obviously, because it was 0-0. It was just like it wasn't happening. I just kept having to go, oh yeah, let me just see what the score is. There wasn't anything to sort of keep you up to date. And then when it came to the penalties, obviously that it's so funny, isn't it? Because I feel like the first penalty shootout I can remember, oh, you're going to do well at this. The one that always sticks in my head is Brentford, is like one of the first ones that I remember seeing in person. What penalty shootouts in your Cambridge United history are you sticking out in your head? Because I think a lot of them are recent.
Yeah, because of the whole Vertu
Yeah,
extra point penalty shootout.
exactly.
There's a ton in there, and rumor has it we'd lost 5 on the trot before Stockport, and I'm trying to remember back what the last win would be. Would it be that Brentford one?
It must be because what
Yeah,
is there? There's I know Rotherham in the Virtu. I remember Bromley in the Virtu. I think.
yeah, yeah, both of those.
Then there must be another. I mean, there must be another three. I imagine. People will.
Bristol, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah,
That would be the fifth of the 5.
yeah. Anyway, point being, bizarre to have a penalty shootout, which is such a notable thing, or maybe has become less of a notable thing, but have no way of following it.
I I can remember. Oh, it's so vague. I can't remember if it was what it at the time was like has become the Virtu. I would certainly remember that. That would probably be like the earliest one, but like the biggest one I remember from my early years, and you'll like this, Julian, because there'll be a plug coming up, was Notts Forest away. That night, that infamous night, in the League Cup, being 3-0 down, getting it back to 3-3, go to penalties.
Yeah, yeah.
Didn't end well. Add that to the long list of penalty shootout defeats I've experienced as both a Cambridge and England fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, the blue, the light blue, dark blue, half and half shirt, Phillips lighting.
So a man with a headband on.
Absolutely. You're gonna tee up the plug?
Yeah, I think you should do it because it's.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how we're releasing it. Is everyone gonna hear it?
No, we're gonna do it as we're gonna do the same as we've just done with the Mark Green interview, which you can listen to today. Which the full interview is for Coconut Tier members, but there will be a shortened version going out, like with today's Mark Green interview, which you should go and listen to. But of course, we're talking about John Taylor. You're going to be interviewing Shaggy himself tomorrow night, aren't you? You excited?
I am very excited because I was working on the running order earlier, and there's just so many games, stories, bits where you just want to know the inside track. Hopefully, he remembers. If anything, I'm worried that we've got too much to ask him in the time that we've got with him, but we'll try our best. So very, very excited. You know me, Julian. I am quite an anxious person. I have to push the record and end record button. So that is tempering my excitement for that pod with the anxiety of recording a ghost pod with a special guest on. So yeah, mixed feelings going into that one.
So hopefully, if you're listening to this now, unless Jord manages to mess something up with pressing start and stop record, then the Shaggy interview should be in your inbox on Thursday morning. Hopefully, if all goes well.
A Thursday pod, that is a rarity.
I know. This week's full of pods, mate. We're absolutely cranking them out this week. Anyway, we've gone on a huge detour here from you asking me about the Stockport game. I wanted to just give you a little story about how I actually ended up following the penalty shootout. So I was in Cambridge for a friend's birthday on Saturday, and I was doing a little pub crawl down Mill Road, and we were in a pub called the Six Bells, and we were sitting in there, and as I say, I was checking my phone sporadically, and in walks Tom Walker, like out of nowhere. Like we did the Spider-Man meme, sort of like pointing at each other, like what are you doing here? Unplanned. And another friend of ours.
That's because Tom and I were out, and you didn't text us to tell us that you were out. So that bit awkward. But anyway.
Well, I was doing something different. So anyway, so we see each other, and we sit down, we have a few pints, and then when it gets to the penalties, we were like, oh, we've got to find a way. So realised that it was on the radio. Went BBC Cams on our phone, stood outside the pub. There's about 4 or 5 of us United fans, and it was like listening to the wireless in like the 40s. It was like, you're listening in for like the Ashes score from Australia overnight or something on a little wireless, and it was like all huddled around this phone, like shh, 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 each penalty, and and then obviously like celebrated pretty wildly at the end. So that was one of my more unique moments of following a penalty shootout.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Neil Harris said it was a brilliant day for the club, Julian. Would you agree with that post-match?
Well, I mean, I guess so. It shows in the sort of short term that there's a lot of fight in this squad. We heard from the Stockport preview about they had some injury problems. They hadn't been probably playing at their best in this little period, but I think it was still fair to say that a team 5th in League One was expected to be too much for us. And I think having I mean, just got to caveat it again. Didn't watch the full game, so going off stats and going off the little that I know, it seems like we didn't just go up there and sort of cling on for a goalless draw.
If you look at the highlights, there's barely any
Yeah,
Stockport chances.
and it's hard to find proper proper stats, but like the second half, especially if you look at the numbers that come off on Flash Score, we had 55% possession to their 45, more shots than them, more shots on target, more corners. Like, tells you that there's maybe dominating the game's a bit of a stretch too far because it's fairly tight. But I think we definitely put on a bit more of a show than I was expecting. And in the short term, I think that's a brilliant day for the club. It shows that we've kind of turned our league form not around, but we're proving ourselves a bit more of a consistent side in the league. And I think this cup draw can only help our sort of momentum and the positivity around our campaign. And it's turned a brilliant November into a brilliant start to December too.
I want to loop back to something you said at the very start of that answer about this. I think you said something along the lines of the spirit of the team. So I've got this on the running order a little bit lower down, but I'll bring it up. A word on the sort of how you're feeling towards this team now and the likability of this team and kind of getting on board with them. Because a few weeks ago, I remember having a conversation with someone that I watched the games with saying, and, you know, bear in mind at the time we had and still have this pretty decent home form. We were having this conversation about, you know, how likable or how on side we were with the team as kind of on that kind of like that extra level. So not just the results of what you're seeing, but that kind of sort of emotive level and that connecting sort of level to them. And I just wondered if, you know, Saturday with what you saw from Stockport, you know, in terms of, you know, not actually seeing the game, but from all around it versus, you know, some of these other results, you know, like that last minute, you know, winner against Crewe, the really hearted, you know, spirited performance against Bristol Rovers. Are you starting to warm up to this team beyond just the starting 11? Are you starting to be becoming a little bit more attached to them? Because I feel like I am. And, you know, I see like, you know, we'll talk about some of the players' kind of responses to the penalty shootout in a sec, but I saw some of that showed me some character. You know, the little footage that the club puts out, sort of like the Amber Angle type stuff where, you know, you see McConnell and Hoddle celebrating in front of the fans. Like, I am starting to get like a bit more of a hook towards this group of players. And I feel like the last 3-4 weeks, you know, with the Fredbear squad kind of up against it, that's really kind of helping. And I don't know if that's just me or if any of that makes, I don't know, rings true to you in the slightest.
It definitely does a little bit. I think the first part of that is like results will always breed that no matter who's playing for you. If we haven't lost since October, that's what I think that's 8 games now in all competitions. We haven't conceded a lot of goals in that time. In fact, I guess in all comps we've conceded 3, right? 2 at Bristol Rovers, 1 against Crewe. So that's always going to help. You're seeing your team do well. It's always going to help your likability towards them. So I definitely agree with you on the most basic element. But I do think, especially in the last couple of weeks, it's 2 things. It's exactly what you just said there about the ability to have the fight and the kind of in the face of adversity, because there has been adversity. We've only got 1 striker fit at the moment, and
back to the wall kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you'd expect a Neil Harris side, if I'm going to be really stereotypical about what we expect Neil Harris teams to be, you would expect them to have this fight and not ever lay down. And we're seeing the proof of that. You go up to Stockport and even on the base of it, just come out of it without conceding a goal against away to fifth in League One. That's the kind of fight that we're talking about. But then you're doing it. It's how you're doing it. And there's some of the little storylines in there. So one for me is Ben Knight. It's as simple as scoring the last minute winner against Crewe, how influential he was in the first goal as well. We've called for ages for him he's clearly got the ability and we want him to have this, to impact games in the way that we saw against Crewe. And he's a local boy starting to come good, and there's an excitement around him coming good, right? And you see his celebration, and it's like that's enough to get you to get you going as a fan. Then there's George Hoddle and Glenn McConnell, who you go back a week earlier at Barrow when McConnell comes into the side, plays really well for the first 50-60 minutes against Crewe. Okay, faded out the game quite badly in the second half, but still affecting games and playing league games, which as fans you always want to see academy players playing in your side. Hoddle's a brilliant example of that. by all accounts, again, Saturday played brilliantly, playing better and better each week. Mamadou Diop, let's talk about him again. Like, your captain goes off injured, and Mamadou Diop, we know how brilliant a player he is, but he comes in and keeps putting in these brilliant performances. And I think when you add all those little storylines up, and the fact that we keep winning or not losing games in the adversity we're in, I think you're totally right to start feeling a likability towards the squad. But I will say that I think it's a hard thing to get. It's an easy thing to lose, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like it takes a long time for fans to like develop that relationship with a team. It could take 2 games, and I think you wouldn't feel that way.
A 6-0 away to MK Dons being
Exactly.
down in 10 minutes could do that for you.
It would be as simple as that, and then all the narrative flips again. And that's just football, and the narrative's horrible, isn't it? It flips so quickly. But in this exact moment when we're speaking right now, I completely agree with you.
Good stuff. Go beat Birmingham. That will just cement it, right? Just cement it. Absolutely.
Yeah, then get a glamour tie at like Boreham Wood or something.
They were another one in the draw earlier, didn't they? Get like another lower.
They got Brackley.
Team.
Brackley
or before we move on to the penalties, because we have a good couple of minutes about penalty chat. Probably should mention that actually cup revenue so far. You mentioned this to me earlier before we started recording, but our revenue from the FA Cup so far is estimated to be 130k. If we win, or when we win, I shall say, against Birmingham in front of a sold-out Abbey, that will be even more money in the coffers there. Who are you splashing that cash on in January, Julian? Are you putting all on one player, or?
Or go number 9. Go and get the most expensive number 9 you can find. I tell you what, jokes aside though, it kind of shows you the value of these things, because that's a player, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's as simple as that, really. If the I probably touched on it in that answer about Harris calling it a brilliant day for the club. I think that's probably in his mind, that there's just a little bit more willingness to be able to go and do something different in January, or it helps there being less restraints when you're negotiating with a player, which I can imagine is a big thing when you're coming to a month where they've got a lot of decisions to make, whether they're staying or leaving. And the managers always talk about how unpredictable January is and how you need to be. I think I'm going to skip ahead in the running order, I'm sorry, but how you've got to be adaptable in the window. And just being able to have some wiggle room with finances has got to be the best thing to be adaptable. So I think that factor from Stockport is a huge thing, and from the cup run in general. And again, sold out Abbey, if Birmingham come to town and we manage to nearly sell it out, it's some more money in the coffers, and obviously the prize money itself. So it could be a really important thing to our January, and then for the rest of the season.
Yeah, they spoke about it in the presser, didn't they? And Neil Harris was saying how your plans for January could change in a period of sort of 10 days, starting from Boxing Day, going through to that first weekend of January. Was asked about whether we'd move early or not. I think they were thinking we were going to spend that money, and he said we have irons in the fires and we're keen on some players. That's nice. Those are words you want to hear, aren't they? But plenty of games to play before that window opens. Before we touch on our next fixture then, which is Chesterfield, got to talk about these penalties. Keep saying we're going to talk about these penalties. Let's talk about these penalties. Second penalty shootout in a week. That rumour circulating beforehand that we'd lost 5 in a row, Julian. You huddled outside the pub with Tom. How were the nerves? How did you think this penalty shootout was going against a team in a higher division than us?
Penalty shootouts are amazing. I think they're one of the best things about football, because I could have no skin in the game at all, and I get natural nerves watching a penalty shootout. I think they're such a brilliant contact. I love them as a dynamic in football anyway. Before then, I'll be honest with you, Jord, I wasn't that bothered about this game. I'm much more interested in us doing well in the league. If we'd have lost in extra time, it might have been a bit not disappointing. I'd have been a bit gutted for the team to have got that far and then lost in that manner, but probably still would have taken positives from taking a team like that to extra time.
Did you not think that the longer it went on, the more you were like, I don't want us to lose, because of the whole playing this extra half hour compared to how Chesterfield going to play? Especially
once you get to penalties, because by that point it's not really a skill thing anymore. Beyond being able to strike a penalty, it's kind of a mentality thing, and it's just the margins are so small by that stage. So by then, there were a few nerves. There was some It's an odd penalty shootout when it goes like that, when like we kind of take the lead in inverted commas with the first kick, right? First kick. Oh no,
Well,
we went first, didn't we?
it was a complete opposite to the Bristol shootout where Kai missed our first one,
Yeah,
and then Eastwood saves the first one from the shootout.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So then you're just like, and not being able to watch a penalty shootout as well. I mean, they're nerve wracking enough when you can watch them, but just to hear like the little pregnant pause just before like the crowd makes either one noise or another. So yeah, it was pretty. They were a good lot of penalties to watch back. I'll tell you that as well.
What would you in your preferred penalty style, Julian, if you were stepping up?
James Gibbons smash it down the middle.
That was my answer as well. Absolutely, yeah. What I thought was really interesting, Neil Harris post match in his interview, because you watch a lot of England games, so you would have hopefully seen us win some of those shootouts that we've won recently. Sorry if you haven't, and I'm just treading on some bad feelings. You saw the 5 out of 5 one, didn't you, against Switzerland?
The Switzerland one, yeah. Pressure,
so,
what pressure? Yeah.
And like all the science that goes into it, right? And how like the setup with the FA in England has changed to make sure it's a big deal, and yeah, for the most part, seems to be working pretty well. What I found really funny was Neil Harris post match went, "Oh, I don't really have a say in the penalties. I left it with Corey Smith and Gibbo to decide who took them and in what order."
Well, do you know what's funny about that? That actually I kind of clocked in the presser, which maybe this can transfer us beautifully onto Chesterfield. Is that he's asked about Morrow being out, and he says, "I've just seen a lot of leaders." So something along the lines of, "I've seen a lot of leaders step up in the squad," and he mentions Smith and Gibbo particularly, and how he's seen them like really grow and like he's learning more about the group. And I think what we were talking about earlier with this kind of likability and that backs against the walls thing, we maybe a lot of that is seeing their influence on the changing room in the absence of Morrow. And maybe there's an example there of like Harris being like, well, it's on you guys to decide, the order in which it goes in. And it probably says a lot about Smith and Gibbons that one took the first one, one took the fifth one. Yeah. That maybe there's a lot of, again, I'll take the responsibility on, sure, which is probably something that I can imagine Harris loves to see in his dressing room leaders.
You are so close to saying the group culture and mentality. You just need to drop it in there.
Just listen to his presser. I heard him say it about 55 times.
Should we listen to a different kind of presser? The official Chesterfield at home presser, which is your good self, which I'll pass over to you to introduce.
Yeah, I had a lovely chat with a Chesterfield fan called Dave. It's time to get our match preview for the Tuesday night game under the lights at the Abbey. I'm joined by Dave from Legends of the Spire. How are you, mate?
Hello, very well, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
No, absolute pleasure. Thanks for being on. Tuesday night, we play each other. This is the unique fixture where we play each other within about 3 weeks of each other, home and away. This is obviously the first leg, let's call it. How's your season been up to now? I see you're a few places below us in the league, but only a point difference. So similar sort of starts to us. How's it all been?
Yeah, I think we're probably one of a dozen teams in this league that probably thinks we could be a little bit higher. Had a few different things gone our way. We've had points where we've been a point away from getting into the top three, and then points where you have a couple of bad results and you drop quite heavily, and then a couple of games later you can rise up again. So I think we were kind of one of the pre-season favourites to kind of be up there, which was nice to be in that frame, I guess. But at the same time, it's still only our second year back in League Two, having come up from the National League. So it's kind of, at the moment, it's feeling a bit like the difficult second album, in that we had kind of a bit of the momentum from coming up from the National League. And then you naturally then at the end of that first season back in the league, a few players leave that were kind of the standout players in your National League years, I guess. And I think then it takes a while for you to get a bit of an identity again, and the kind of the relationship and the cohesion you get between fans and players kind of has to build again, because you're kind of starting again and trying to get to the next level. So I'd say at the moment we're probably like a few teams maybe, in that we're kind of all right and we're quite optimistic, but at the same time feeling a bit frustrated.
Yeah. I think it's a strange league, isn't it? Because there's so many like similar that answer applies, like you said, to 12 teams, including ourselves. But the expectation, I think, is an interesting thing because pre-season, you mentioned it there, the pods like not the top 20. I think they predicted you to win the league. And they weren't the only ones that had you in the top three and thought that you'd sort of build that on that first season back really strongly. Are people disappointed at how it started and being 10th? I mean, despite the small gap, is there a disappointment that you've not kicked on in a bit more of an assertive manner?
Yeah, I think there's probably areas of the team that people are a little bit disappointed in. Like in the summer, we went out and we signed Dylan Markande, who was a gregreat loan signing for us, came on a free from Blackburn, who has just torn his hamstring, so you'll not see
Brilliant.
him on Tuesday night. And he came in with loads of fanfare. And Ryan Sturck came in, who was kind of a good signing from Walsall because they beat us whenever we came up against them last year. So I think on goal scoring, we're I think second in the goal scoring charts behind MK Dons, I think, but we have the fifth worst defence. I think it's like the bottom four and then us. So it's all been defensively where we've been a little bit of a shambles. We kind of we signed Carl McFadden, who we had at the end of last season, who's 39, but um, still has been really, really good on the most part. But then next to him, Shay Dunkley, who we signed, and then he had a really bad neck injury last year, so missed the whole season, has come back, and he's not quite been the same player that we expected him to be. And then at the same time, they didn't really sign any other centre backs as backup, so we've struggled defensively but excelled in the attacking terms. So I think the frustration from the fan base probably is in the defensive side of the team rather than the attack. But I think probably as a fan base, we're all at the point now of thinking, right, it's start of December. If we can get through the next kind of handful of games, try and pick up an all right amount of points and stay in contact, then we can have a bit of a go in January. So we've already signed a Canadian, well, he's British, but he's been playing in the Canadian League, centre back, who's coming in at the start of January and is already training with us. So it feels like they know what to do to rectify the problems, and everyone has faith in Paul Cook to do that. But it's tricky when you're kind of letting in silly goals. You have loads of possession, then you're letting a silly goal. That seems to be the story that we've seen over and over again so far.
The result of yours that stuck in my head just when I was doing a little bit of research just before we jumped on this call is the loss at Colchester, which was a lot further back than actually I remember, but that 6-2 defeat at the start of October. But then the sort of response to that seems, just on the face of the results in all competitions, that you didn't then lose a game until the 29th of November. So it's like basically 2 months, where you bookended 2 months with defeats, but in the middle, really strong. So is there, I imagine there's quite a lot of character to this side, right? I imagine it's the sort of side that, despite all these injury problems, which I want to touch on in a second, there's a lot of fight in the side, which I imagine comes from Paul Cook.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of experience as well in that team. We've got kind of Tom Naylor, who brought us through the kind of National League, who's kind of now an old experienced player, and McFadden and Dunkley and Will Grigg and players like that are all experienced and have got quite a few promotions under the belt. So I think, and as well with Paul Cook, he always kind of says, you don't get too high with the highs and too low with the lows. He's kind of tries to keep things steadily ticking over, doesn't try and ring the alarm bells too early, which obviously as fans we all do. We all ring them straight away, don't we? But you're right in pointing to that Colchester match, because that one did kind of before that, the narrative before that was, we're going to click in soon. We'll click in soon as a team. We'd have really great results, and you'd have iffy results. We'll click in, and then I think we let in 7 in the Virtue Trophy to Crewe. We then let in 6 at Colchester. We'd already let in 4 at Gillingham, although 2 were non-penalties. And we've kind of had quite a few games where we've just completely collapsed. But it felt like the Colchester game was a bit of, right, enough's enough now, come on. And after that, we had a good period of time where I think we went 9 or 10 unbeaten, like you say, and we started to climb back up again. So I think that's given everyone a bit of optimism. And there's never any sense that, Paul Cook's time is over or anything like that. I think most fans are quite happy for him to pretty much have a lifetime contract because they know he'll kind of get it right eventually. And in his interviews, when he does them, because they're sparingly when he does them, he kind of says that he knows what the problems are, and January's coming along to try and fix it. So I think we're going in again for Ben Ward, the defender from Accrington, who we tried to sign before the window shut, and they doubled the price on the transfer deadline day. So I think there's a few players that they're looking at to try and stop those heavy defeats coming along.
Yeah. Well, it's you mentioned before about the injuries as well, and you're maybe going for a little bit of a bad patch with injuries and availability. What sort of side for Tuesday night do you think you'll be able to put out, and how I guess what I want to know is how much weaker is it than your normal side, and what sort of availability off the bench have you got?
Yeah. So it's a good question because it's weird that it feels like we've got loads of injuries, but actually we've not got a huge amount of them. They're just into key people, really. Last season we had loads of injuries. There were points where we were putting 3 or 4 people on the bench. This season it's just those key ones. So Armando Dobra's out until the middle of January, who's a big key attacking player for us. Dylan Markande, like I said, pulled his hamstring. Looked like he pulled his hamstring. They've not confirmed it yet in the FA Cup game at the weekend. So that's kind of our left winger and our right winger out. We're fortunate that we've got James Berry, who is on loan from Wickham, who came up through the National League with us, and Dylan Duffy. So we're very rich in players in those areas. Anyway, we were very light up front. We only had Lee Bonis, who has scored 5 in 7, but until then had a bit of a slow start with us, who we signed from ADO Den Haag in Holland, who's Northern Irish. But Will Griggs now back fit after he's been out for kind of 6 to 8 weeks, I think. So it'd be nice to have more than one striker available. Defensively, we've kind of got a pretty full strength defence, but they've not been performing that well. And then in midfield, we did only have Fleck and Naylor, who are 2 kind of older veterans in midfield, but Ryan Stirk and Luke Butterfield are back. But Fleck just got sent off, so now he's out for 3 games. So it is a case that on the bench we're definitely going to be a little bit weaker in like the attacking midfield section. Paul Cook he plays 4-2-3-1. He usually likes to replace all 3 in the 3 behind the striker, kind of on about the 70th minute mark. And we score a lot of goals from substitutes. But now that we've lost 2 of those key people, there's not that many people that can come on and replace in those positions. So it might affect us later in the game because that usual tactic that he likes to do on 70 minutes is probably not there due to the injuries, I suspect.
Yeah. And what about if you were doing the scout report for Neil Harris on Chesterfield, you've named a lot of players here. If there's one player you could pick out as like the real danger man, who would that be? And then the flip of that is, where are you weakest? Like where might we get at you? Which part of your team worries you?
Yeah, the danger man we would have put as Dylan Markande because he was amazing for us last season when he was on loan from Blackburn and then went to Leyton Orient, had a loan spell there, did pretty rubbish. But had a slow start to us, but has then been terrifyingly good in the last few weeks. So he's a real big miss on the right wing. We'd probably say Dylan Duffy had a really good game at the weekend on the left wing. He's quite tall. He's good on set pieces. He puts in a really wicked cross. So I'd say you probably want, if you stop Dylan Duffy, you'll be doing quite well. We'll probably aim for him on things like goal kicks and stuff like that as being the guy that's going to win the header. Probably look at him as an outlet just to get out wide and stretch your team and put crosses in and stuff like that. And he scored quite a few at the start of the season. So I'd say with the players that are out, probably Dylan Duffy and James Berry are the 2 creative hot shots for us. If you were going to target us, it would definitely be in the full-back positions. We've not been doing great in those positions, especially at right back. We've got Devon Tanton, who's a young Colombian on loan from Fulham, and Vontae Daly-Campbell, who was like an Arsenal youth at one point, and neither of them can hold down the right back spot. In the last few games, we've let in goals on the back post, where it's Devon Tanton's quite a short fullback, and we've had kind of taller wingers that have had a run on him and got headers in at the far post. So I'd probably say if you've got anyone with a bit of height and a bit of a goal scoring threat, if you can stick them on your left wing, then you can probably target the back post for us and aim for that as a danger point.
Well, I'll have to let them know. That's a good tip. What about prediction then to wrap
Or I
up?
could be lying.
Yeah. What about a prediction for the game? Which way do you see it going?
Heck, it'd be interesting to know what your thoughts are on this because on my predictions for the game, it's like we could crumble and you could beat us 4 or 5-0. You know, if we have another one of those Colchester Gillingham type of days. But then also in recent times we had a really good 1-0 at Grimsby where we were really solid and kind of had a good deserved 1-0 win there. So I think if we can come away with a point on Tuesday night, it'd be a really strong result for us. Especially going into the weekend, then we've got Barnet at home. You can kind of look at it as a 4 point week, hopefully. So I think it'll be a 1-1 or a 2-2, something like that. There's no way we'll keep a clean sheet in a month of Sundays. So we're probably looking at a 1-1 or something like that.
Do you know I've got the same prediction. So there's a lot of, I think for different reasons, you know, I think we're the best home side in the league. Defensively, we're incredibly strong. So it's kind of the flip of everything you've just described. But I just kind of think we're in a good bit of form, but I think we might just sort of like level each other out a little bit. And it might be the sort of game that both sides look at it around 70 minutes and go, a point's not a bad result here against a strong Chesterfield side, or, you know, away from home for you. And plus the injury problems that we've both got, it might be one of those where 3 games in a week, you kind of just, maybe there's an element of pragmatism that comes in from both managers. And Neil Harris is an incredibly pragmatic manager. So if he plays it on his terms, it'll be a terrible game of football to watch. But I imagine the way you set up, it might be a bit more entertaining. So thanks a lot for joining, Dave, and enjoy the trip if you're making the trip down.
I've got, kids panto school show kind of time of year, so I'm not making the trip down, but I'll be watching it on TV, so I'll be there in spirit.
Yeah, hopefully the panto's more entertaining at least.
Yeah, well, we'll see. There's plenty of panto in football this time of year, so
yeah,
we'll see.
Cheers, mate. Thanks very much, Dave. That was a great chat. Dave doesn't have social media, so there's no way I can tell you to go and follow Dave's channels, but he's a very knowledgeable Chesterfield fan. Interesting game, this one, I think, George. It's funny, just after we finished recording, I asked him what, genuinely how he's feeling, just kind of off mic, or it kind of came up, and he was like, he made a good point. He was like, I think if both managers could shake hands and agree on a draw before the game and guarantee no injuries, I think they would. Would you?
Oh, interesting. It's the no injury line in there.
Because they're in the same position as us with injuries. They're struggling up until January. They're really light on the ground, and we are obviously especially up top. So I think if you could guarantee no injuries, would you take it?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think I'm erring towards no. Let's roll the dice and be risky, just because you look at the rest of the month and the first 2 games of January, some big games there, and it's not that I'm not confident. It's more that I'm apprehensive around, where we're going to pick up those points from. I want to stay in that playoff hunt. So I look at the home games, especially the ones before Christmas, more so than, say, the visits of Walsall and Grimsby. And I look at Chesterfield and I look at Accrington. I'm like, that's the ones. Those are the ones. Get those points there. So I don't know. If we could go, 6 points from those games and lose at MK Dons, I'd feel happy about that period just before the Christmas period starts. So as tempting as the no injuries are, I'm hoping, people like Appere are back. Don Ball will hopefully be back for the Christmas period. So yeah, I think I would still take the 3 points though. I guess it depends on, you could mix the question up a little bit more and say, well, injuries to which area? Because
yeah, true.
I feel like there are some parts of the squad that we could maybe get away with. So, Zach Bradshaw got injured up at Stockport, won't feature on Tuesday night. I feel like that can be covered, but there are others where you're like, nah, can't be taking the injury there.
Yeah, well, centre mid probably being one, right? If I guess now that there's Pelly, there's Smith, and there's Hoddle. So there is a bit more then. Hoddle's kind of proved himself there. So maybe I'm wrong about that, but
More,
it's up top,
more centre forward, I guess.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And actually, I was just saying about Bradshaw, thinking about him playing as a left back and how you got cover there. He is also the other cover for centre back. So centre back is light, isn't it? You know, with Job and Watts at this very moment.
Rossi as well. Was Rossi out? At the moment?
Rossi, of course. Yeah.
Rossi's just become the forgotten man. Yeah, I guess. It doesn't mean he's particularly good, does it? What about the sort of tiredness factor? They asked Harris about this in the presser, and he said he thinks it's irrelevant mentality-wise. Playing the extra 30 gave a winning feeling, so it kind of lifts the team. Where do you stand on this? Because Chesterfield, for context, lost in the 90th minute for their cup tie at the weekend, so that they obviously played 30 less than us. You worried that we're going to be at the tighter outfit because we can't really rotate a lot, can we?
They kicked off a little bit later, if that's anything.
Okay.
Is there any science in that?
Bedtime.
So Tuesday night, are we going to be tired, or are we going to be Croatia World Cup 2018 tired?
Yeah. Like it.
So I'm hoping we channel that spirit. I do kind of get. I kind of get what Harris is going on about, that kind of lift. You know, you play that extra 30 minutes, and you get the results. It kind of gives you that boost to kind of maybe push yourself more the next time out. Oddly, I think Tuesday will be okay. I think I'm maybe more worried about the Saturday away to MK Dons, bigger pitch, tough team to play, tough place to go. Maybe, and then obviously with like an extra 90 minutes in the bank from Tuesday night. So I'm less worried about the fatigue and the tiredness on Tuesday. I think they obviously would have mapped this period out. You can, do the lighter sessions or no training at all. So I don't think it will be too much on Tuesday. Famous last words that now. You can start seeing some people flagging all over the place. But I think there is still enough in the tank on the basis that no names other than Bradshaw were given away in the presser as being injured. If we're sat here and actually a whole load of them aren't going to play on Tuesday night, I'm going to look very silly. But I'm not too worried about the tiredness, just because I think it's kind of in that sort of condensed sort of way where a short rest, a light kind of get together on Monday, and then you're good to go on the Tuesday. I think longer term, I'm more worried because we basically going into a very busy period, having already played a lot of games, which, doesn't seem like the greatest recipe for me.
No, I agree. It's that period just after Christmas, actually, that I'd go as far as saying, like, Gillingham away, Chesterfield away. You've also got the miles in there. You've got the Christmas period in general. You've got, like, weather to deal with, playing tough teams. Plus then I think Walsall at home. Is it Walsall at home on the first? Yeah. And then
Walsall on the first, and then at home
Grimsby
to
on the
Grimsby on the set. Yeah.
So you're playing 4 top 7 sides in that period as well. So you think they're going to be really intense games on top of everything. So I think that's a good shout. I mean, in that sense, then an interesting thing about this dynamic that Dave mentions there with this game on Tuesday, Chesterfield are one of the best attacking sides in the league. They've got great attack, terrible defence. We've got a great defence and a terrible attack. So is that, in your mind, something that cancels each other out? Or actually, does it maybe play to our advantage a little bit? And especially under the lights at the Abbey on a Tuesday night. The other week, I think Tom put it really well. I think it was after the Crew game. He said, one thing you've got to think is Chesterfield won't want to come to the Abbey on a Tuesday night. They'll look at that as a really tough assignment.
For sure. Yeah.
So where do you stand with it in terms of your confidence with getting a result out of it from our perspective?
It reminds me a little bit of the Barnet game a few weeks ago, which admittedly we had a stronger squad for, but we kind of went into that game, good defence versus great attack. I believe I'm right in saying.
Yeah.
And yes, I think Barnet had opportunities to win that game, and arguably were one of the better teams that we've played at the Abbey so far. But there were points in the game where we were on top, and it felt like actually we were more than just that defensive team. We were giving it a good go. So I feel like the way we are performing at home at the moment is maybe that little bit of extra edge. Like you say, the reputation of our home form must now be starting to get round. Obviously, that kind of maybe puts a bit of a target on you, and you're seen as a little bit more as a scout. But it could go the other way as well. Like Tom was saying, it could be a daunting place to come. So, yeah, magical things happen under the lights. So I'm feeling, I don't know, I feel like Tuesday quite a balanced one, and I'm not. Yeah, I'm hoping that we've got enough at both ends.
Yeah, do you know what else? It's worth saying as well that any listeners and not the top 20 will know that they've kind of changed their stance on Chesterfield a little bit of late. They had Chesterfield as their predicted league winners pre-season, but of late have been a bit more sceptical about them as a team. And I think they've drawn 2 games 3-3. They've only won once, which was away at 10-man Grimsby, which even then I think they managed to like concede a lot of chances. They score a lot of goals, but their XG is exactly the same as ours over the season, which, you know, tells you something. Underlying chances, maybe that it's not a sustainable thing. So I kind of think this is quite a good time for us to play a team like this. I'm going into it feeling fairly bullish, and I think I'd rather have the equation of good defence, bad attack at home, and find a way to, if we can score, if we can get our noses in front from a set piece or something, as we have done so many times this season, I kind of back us to be able to soak up pressure, which is what Harris loves to do. So
you forget that we can create hundreds of chances against a team at home, mate.
Hundreds.
So,
let's have your prediction and any lineup shouts.
just thinking about the lineup, I think surely Corey Smith comes in for a start. There's got to be some rotation in the centre of midfield there. Obviously, wouldn't like to see Hoddle drop out, but maybe he might be one to be considered. After that, I guess it's much of who is available and who is ready to and fit and good to go. I guess Kachunga has to start. I'm guessing
probably Bennett starts. Do you think at right back? I don't know. Like Gibbons played on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume Bennett. It feels like in recent weeks in the league, Bennett's kind of made that place a bit more his own. I know we were having a few conversations a month or so ago. It feels like that conversation went away a little bit, and Bennett's maybe slightly got his nose in front of Gibbons there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's been a mixed week for Gibbons, isn't it? Because he didn't come out of the Bristol game with much credit, but whereas Stockport is kind of the opposite to that. I wonder if it will be a change back to the 4-2-3-1 like we did in the last home game, and with that, you know, getting Bennett involved and get Bennett doing some attacking. So yeah, I think that would probably be my change.
Mayer as well. He didn't start on Saturday. I'd definitely start him for Kai, and I'm just not sure he can drop Hoddle. I'm just not sure, and I think he'll start Pelly as any game he's fit. So I think he might just keep going with Hoddle. I wonder
if he'll go Hoddle and Smith like he did.
Maybe
at home to Crewe, and maybe we'll get a similar lineup to that. Obviously, no Perret and Morrison available. Maybe we'll go with that and have Kai on the bench.
Yeah, potentially. It might be interesting if, and I was wondering. I didn't think he'd do this at home a lot, so I'm not kind of predicting that this is what he's going to do. But at Colchester away, I remember Pelly playing a more advanced role. He's always playing like behind the striker.
Yep. Yeah.
So maybe there's a world in which he wants to play all three. So he'll play like Hoddle and Smith, Pelly behind Kachunga, and then Mayer and Brophy on either wing, something like that. It feels slightly more
risky,
defensive. It feels more defensive in my eyes, really. And then you've got no centre mid on the bench, which I don't like the idea of.
Yeah, it feels a bit risky with McLovin and Donball. Not fit to play to risk starting both of them.
Well, great. And prediction?
2-1. We're going to do them 2-1, mate.
Oh, I like it a lot. I'm going to go 1-0 U's. This conversation has taken me from a 1-1 draw to a 1-0 win. I think you're right. I think it's a good time to play for us to play them.
Goal in front of the NRE late on.
Late goal in front of the NRE. Yeah, let's go for it. Why not? Yeah, a special night to remember. Something else that's quite special is the special episode we just dropped that I mentioned earlier. Interview with Mark Green, the co-owner of Cambridge United. Coconut Tier members get the full hour. The preview for all non-Coconut Tier members will be in your feeds. So do check that out. It's a really interesting chat about the ground, about his story with United, about his kind of future hopes and plans with the club. Really interesting and great to chat to him. So thanks very much to Mark for that. And then obviously, hopefully, as long as George can remember to press record, you'll also get the John Taylor interview on Thursday. So
I've got to push it twice, right? Once at the start, once at the end. Yeah.
So no pressure, mate. But until then, George, it's been a pleasure.
The magic of the cup, mate.
the Monklassico.